Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a full service on my 5th Gen Cummins. It's a 2020. I believe the 19 to everything that's new, the 24s or 25s, whatever's out, are all the same. But we're going to do oil change, oil filter, fuel filters, both of them, the cabin air filter, and the intake air filter. I'll go through each one of those step by step. I'll give you the part numbers on here and in the description. And there's a few little tips I'll point out along the way, and I'll show you guys what you need. But instead of dragging this on, we'll jump right into it. So like I mentioned, I'd go over everything that we need to do the oil change. So the first thing, obviously do the oil change and all the stuff, you need a drain pan. That's the one I use. Make sure you take that red cap out, but we'll go over that after. I also have this antifreeze jug that I just cut the side off of. I'll show you what that's for after. But I use that, and then I have this plastic bag as well. I will explain that after too. When we get to that step, why I have that. And then you need your oil filter wrench. You need some different sockets. That's an 8mm. That's a 28mm. And then just your ratchets to go with it. Those are for the fuel filters. The 8mm for the drain plug on the back one. And then the 28 is for the covers or whatever, the caps that hold them closed. That's the paperwork. It's got the, over there, it's got the part numbers on it that we used. And then I have a couple jugs of oil here. I'm going to use out of a pail. I just didn't want to put the pail on the table, but I buy it in 5-gallon pails. I use 0W40 Rotella T6. It's what I've always used. It's what I'm going to keep using. I run 040 just because up in Canada here where I am, we see regular 30 below days. So it's just better to run that, and it's always worked for me. It started every time. I've never had any issues. And then I'm running Mopar brand or Cummins or whatever. They got this Cummins sticker on them anyway, the little symbol. But those are the filters I use. I know you can get them cheaper from like Gino's Garage, or there's a few other ones too. I think there's Doc's Diesel makes their own, or they brand their own anyway. You can buy them there. They're probably cheaper, same with Amazon, but this is what was in stock in town. This is what I grabbed. So we'll make do with it. They're all on the table. There's the prices beside them. I know that seems a little expensive, and it is. For the oil filter, the 2 fuel filters, the one under the hood and the one at the back, the cabin air filter and the air intake filter, they came to $410, I think the paper says. $410.21, yeah, plus the oil. Rotella T6 that I use, 0W40 at Canadian Tire, where I buy it in 5-gallon pails. The Shell Rotella is $199, I think. You can get it on sale usually, but it's $199 for a 5-gallon pail, which gets you a couple oil changes anyway. So that's usually what I do. It is expensive, but that's just the cost of doing business. And like I said, you can get it cheaper, I'm sure. And that's Canadian pricing too, so just keep that in mind if you're down south. Your pricing is going to be a little bit different. I mean, we're 30% more just with the exchange rate alone right now, or roughly 30%, so that'll make up a big portion of that anyway. So the first thing I'm going to start on is the cabin air filter. Well, my hands are clean. Just makes sense that way. So the first thing you want to do, I'm obviously on the passenger side, like there's a truck, right? Passenger side. It's behind the glove box on the 5th gens. So you just want to open your glove box like I have here. There's a little plastic tab thing here, you can see, and then it's hooked up to a stopper. It's just a little cord that stops it. You want to grab that, and if you look on the inside, I think you can see it there. You can see it sits up in a groove there, and then it pulls down, and that's bigger on that end. So you just want to pull it down to there, and then you can see it'll come out. If I can do this with one hand, it comes out, and then it just retracts up inside there, and now that'll go down to the full extent. So now that you have the glove box fully dropped down, like there's the stopper, right? It's just sitting on its own. You want to pull on the glove box. I always find it's easier to start on this side, on the inside of the truck by the console, and you want to pull, and it'll let go there, and then you can do the same. This isn't that easy with one hand. You want to pull this other side out. I might have to do this off camera here quick with the phone down. But you just pull on there and it comes right out, right? So now you have your whole glove box removed. You can just see there's little tabs. That's how it hooks up. So now that you have your glove box out, up inside there, you'll see there's a little black box there. That's where the cabin air filter is at. And there's a little tab on each side. I should be able to do it on camera here. You just want to pop this tab off. You can see now it's loose there. And same thing on this side. If you can get your finger in there, it's pretty tight. And you pull this plastic cover off. You can see it's got indicators of which way the airflow goes. That just helps you direct your filter in the right way. And then you can see there's a brand new cabin air filter that I put in there. And there's airflow indicators on your filter. You can see right there. I don't know if I can get it to focus here. I'll just pull it out actually. This one's brand new. There's already stuff in it. But you can see there's your airflow, right? So you got to line that up with the way that your cover shows, which the airflow arrows face down. That's brand, like I just changed this the other day, so it's pretty clean. Normally it'd be pretty dirty, but yeah, so you take your old filter out, obviously. I usually try to take a vacuum or try to brush it out just to clean whatever's in there out. Then you put your new filter back in and just reverse the steps. You put the filter in, put your cover back on, glove box, but I'll quickly show that. So there you go, filter's in, right? It doesn't, you don't have to jam it in there, but it goes in. Take your little cover, right? Airflow facing down. Clips on there, clips on there. You should hear too, like there's audible snaps when they clip in. So those are back in. Now you just gotta make sure your little retractable glove box thing doesn't get caught up inside there. This is that cord, right? It retracts up inside there. You wanna make sure that doesn't get caught up in there when you're trying to put the glove box in. Now I'm probably gonna have to put my phone down. I don't think I can do the glove box with one hand. But it's fairly simple. It's the same thing as when you take it out. You just got to push it in. There's a little hole. There's one there, one there. You push it in there and it clicks back in. So I'll try to show that with one hand, but I don't think I'll be able to. Because you got to try to keep, yeah, I'm not going to be able to. You have to keep this pulled out and off to the side, but I'll get on that and I'll put it all back together. Now that you got the glove box locked back in, takes a little bit of pressure, but you get it locked back in. You just want to take your little tab, push it through the hole there, slide it back up into the little locking spot, and there you go. Cabin air filter's done, quick and easy. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the oil drain plug out the bottom. So that's where you're gonna need your catch, oil catch of some sort, whether you're using a bucket or one of these. Make sure you take the red cap out of there because they overflow very quickly if you don't, and then you get all dirty. So that's what I'm gonna do that now. To pull the oil drain plug out the bottom, it's just a 3/8 drive ratchet. Like if you have a 3/8 drive extension or something, that'll fit right in there. There's no socket, no special tool, no nothing. That's all it is. So I'll get that slid underneath and I'll pull it out and I'll get the oil draining, and while it's draining, we'll do both fuel filters and then I'll do the oil filter last because it sucks the most. And once that's done, we'll fill her back up. So I'm under the truck now. I have the oil drain cracked. Like I said, it's a 3/8 drive. You just slide your socket in there, like I'll show you. My extension, it's cracked already, that's why it's starting to drip. But you just slide that in there, turn it. I have lots of room under here just because the truck's lifted, but up on the lift it'd be even better. Oil drain in place, and I'll see if I can get this out without completely covering myself, which is probably not gonna happen. Gloves would be nice, but I don't have any, so. There you go. So now we're just gonna let that drain. Hopefully it keeps up, maybe it won't. Yeah, it's not looking like it's gonna, so this is gonna, as you can see, it's nice and slow, so that's what I said to watch for. Yeah, so I'll drain this, and once it's done draining, I'll get back here. So this is why I said you want gloves. Like, I just wiped all the oil off, but that's what I got left for hands. Luckily, I have enough room. I just slid a 5-gallon pail, an empty 5-gallon pail underneath the truck. If your truck's not tall enough, you're probably gonna have to do it if your oil drain or catch or whatever doesn't keep up with the oil coming out of the truck. You might have to do it a couple times, like put the plug back in, which just makes a mess. But yeah, I used a 5-gallon pail just to finish draining it. So now that we have that all drained out, I'll go ahead and we'll start on the fuel filters, and then I'll do the oil filter last just because it sucks the most, and we'll move on. So now that we got the oil draining and the plug's still out, at the back underneath the, I guess this would be like in the middle of the truck pretty much, but I crawled in from the passenger side. Here is your other fuel filter. That's the drive shaft here. It's easier on deleted trucks, I can guarantee you that. This one's emissions intact, as you can see. So it's all still there. So there's not as much room. If you were deleted, you'd have more room back here. But I, for some reason, thought that you needed an 8mm to drain this. But this has a nice little turn thing on it. I can actually just turn it with my finger. There's your little drain. So that's where the antifreeze jug with the cutout side comes in handy. I usually just set it up here on top of the drive shaft. You can balance it between the drive shaft and the fuel tank. And you just set it up there and give this thing a little quarter turn. There's a little, you can see where my finger is here. Give it a quarter turn and it drains out here. So I let it do that and drain the fuel into that little antifreeze jug. And once it's done, then this is where you take your socket and put it on there, and you'll obviously turn that left to loosen it off, and that's where your filter comes out. I have nowhere to put the phone for this, so I'll just do the step, take a clip, do the step, take a clip, and then hopefully put it together for you guys to see. So there you can see fuel is draining out of that little drain hole. It's just draining into my little thing here. There's not much, so it won't fill it up or anything. It'll just drain that out. So I'll let this drain, and then I'll pull the cover off and change the filter. So that's how much fuel you'll get out of that little thing. Like, I mean, it's not much at all. I'm definitely not putting that back in my truck. I'll just dispose of it. You definitely don't want to. Even, like, I know that's dirty, but even if you keep it clean, I would just throw it out just to make sure you don't risk anything. Now that I have that all drained, I'm gonna get my socket and I'm gonna break it loose and pull it off. That I don't think I'll be able to show, but it's easy. You just gotta take your socket that I mentioned earlier, put it your 28mm, put it on there. You can see it locks right on there. Break that loose, and I just hand thread it off after I break it loose, and take that down, and we'll swap it out on the table. So here I got the filter out now. This is the bottom cap. It's got the drain plug and everything. One thing I forgot to mention about, oh, it's dripping a bit. One thing I forgot to mention about doing this is that drain plug, no matter how long you leave it drain, will not get all of it out. When you break the seal, it, I guess, lets more air in there, releases the vacuum, and it drips pretty good out of there. So I always make sure I keep my little jug handy just to make sure it is fully drained. The filter doesn't look awful. Mostly that dirt is just from my hands touching it. But I always make sure I clean this off. Like you can see, yeah, it is still saturated and the filter's still coming out. I make sure I clean the cap and everything off. Like, that's all road grime and salt and dust and everything from up here. So clean that off before I put it back together. Make sure the threads are all clean so nothing gets in there. The other thing I forgot to mention too is I always wear, when I'm underneath the truck, like doing the oil and the fuel filter, is throw safety glasses on. You don't know what's under there. Like, it's dirty. Dust and everything falls in your eyes. You don't want that. So I always throw safety glasses on just as a precaution, because nobody's tougher than getting something in their eye. And I always take a chance when I'm underneath the truck too, just to look around, check everything out, make sure everything looks tight and good. Not very often, I'm sure, do you spend time underneath your truck, so it's kind of a good time to just do a once over. So I got the filter out now. We're gonna change it out. There's the part number for this filter, the 68436631AA-001. That's the Mopar number for your the chassis mounted filter. So you gotta pull it out. Obviously, it's in the bag inside. There's a nice new clean one. It's the same as the one we took out, just nice and clean. They come with a gasket on there. You always want to make sure you change the gasket, even if you think this one might be okay that's on there. Take it off and change it, clean the spot really good. A few years ago, I tried that to leave the other one on there because the one gasket that came with the kit wasn't very nice looking. It kind of looked like it was pinched or something, so I left the old one on. And in one trip to town, I realized I was losing fuel because my fuel tank was, or my fuel gauge was going down way quicker, and sure enough, I crawled underneath it and it was just pouring out from underneath there. So good tip, make sure you have a good gasket and everything, and don't try to reuse any old gaskets. So that's been all cleaned up. I just wiped it down, sprayed it down, put the new O-ring on the bottom there. You can see there's a new O-ring. I put the filter in there. When you push the filter in, it actually like clicks into place. Underneath this filter, there's a little like prong that sticks up or whatever with its own, and then the filter slides over it, and the filter's got a little O-ring inside there at the bottom that seals it. So now I'm just gonna put this back in the truck. And a quick little short note that I mentioned earlier, I said that you can just use your fingers. You can, but that is where the 8mm socket fits on. It fits right on there snug if you don't want to do your fingers, but for mine, my fingers work just fine. Snug it right down. Make sure when you put it back in, you tighten back your drain plug again, because the last thing you want to do is go to prime it later and just have it pour out of your drain plug and never actually get primed. But we'll throw that back in and tighten it down and move on to the under hood one. So I got the fuel filter at the back, put back in, tightened down. I closed the drain plug, made sure everything was good. While I was underneath the truck, so I don't have to go under there again, I threw the oil drain plug back in as well and snugged it down. It drained for quite some time, so it will get to the under hood fuel filter, and then we'll put oil back in it after we do the oil filter. So now we're going to tackle the the under hood fuel filter. It's tucked back in behind there. It's kind of underneath the edge there of the, I don't know what that is, firewall or whatever part of it. It's back in here. It's hard to see, but it's right there. So what you want to do is there's a little yellow quarter turn drain there, and I just turned it just quickly to see where it drains out to. But if you go underneath the truck, you can see kind of that little wet spot right in there. That's where it drains down. There's a little hose, so I'm just going to slide a bucket underneath there and catch whatever comes out of it, but I'll drain that little housing and then close that up, and we'll change that filter now. As you can see, I opened that little yellow quarter turn drain valve for the filter, and it just runs all over everything. You can see it splashed up there. It's running off the diff and just dripping there. Try to catch it the best you can, but there's really not much you can do to get it properly collected, I don't think. So I'll let that drain, and when you go to change the filter, there's a little hex head nut on the top. Not really a nut, but it's a part of the housing. You can see it down in there. Right there, that's a little hex head thing. That's the top cap. When you go to change that, you'll need your 28mm socket and a bunch of extensions. You also can't go straight down on it, unfortunately. So you'll have to get something like this to get it on there, and hopefully you can get at it. It's not that easy to turn, but eventually you'll get her. So I got that cap loosened off now. Just gotta try to massage your way out of there. It's not that easy. And then you can see there's your filter. And the filter might seem a little stuck, but you just wanna
grab it and kind of rock it back and forth and pull on it, and it should come out no problem. And there it is. It's actually pretty clean too. But we'll change it anyway. That's what it looks like. And we'll get the other one in there now. So now that the filter's off, there's an O-ring that's wrapped around the base of the threads there. And you just want to get underneath it if you can. I can't even reach. And get underneath it and just roll it up and take it off. You want to make sure you change it. There it is. Make sure you change that too. So we'll put the new one on and jam the new filter in.
So here's the new filter for under the cab, or under the hood. It's whatever. So it's got instructions on it if you don't know what you're doing. Just shows like in step 1, take the cap off. Step 2, pull the filter and the ring off. Step 3, oil the new ring. So I'm going to do that. I'll put oil on it, put the new filter in. And then you just want to tighten your cap back down, but I'll show you all that. Forgot to mention quick too, the part number for this filter is 68157291 AA-001. That's the Mopar part number.
So I got the O-ring down there lubed up. You want to make sure you slide it all the way down over the threads right to the bottom where it sits in a nice little seat. And then you want to take your oil filter and make sure you put it in there the right way, because you can't really turn it around once it's down there. And you got to get it to fit underneath everything. There we go, because there's some wires and stuff on the left hand side there that are kind of in your way. Then you want to get it pushed down inside there properly. You can feel it click. I don't know if you heard that. It locks in place there. And then you want to take your cap, make sure your threads are all clean them up nicely, there's nothing in there. Slide this back down and then get it started by hand. And I always hand tighten it as much as I can, then just cinch it up, just because it's easier that way. It sucks to try to tighten it down with anything other than your hand when you can't get any tools down in there. They might make a kit or something, I have a feeling, to make this easier, but I don't have one. But that's it anyway. You tighten that down, I'll snug it up, and I think there's actually a torque spec on there, but I just go nice and snug. And then we'll move on to the oil filter. The one thing I forgot to mention here quick was, before you move on, make sure you tighten that quarter turn yellow. I think they're all yellow, I'm assuming. Tighten that little drain down, just like I did there. Because if you go to start the truck and it starts leaking, that's frustrating, but sometimes that could be all it is. So now that we have the fuel filters changed, the oil drained, we're gonna do the oil filter, which is without a doubt my least favorite part of these trucks. I hate the location of it. It's no fun at all. You need a light, so it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna use my phone light. It might be hard for me to video all of it. But it's in the inner fender well on the passenger side front, and they're not easy to get out at all. I'll show you where it is quick here, and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are, passenger side front. I got a little more room than most. It's just because of the lift. But you have this little cutout. This is from factory. It's cut out there. And here's your oil filter. You can see the bottom of it back in there. I can barely even reach in there from where I'm sitting. But you have to try to get an oil wrench in there. This is our oil filter wrench. This is the one I have. Got to get it in there. Now, because of the way the location is, it doesn't come out straight out the bottom because the frame rail and everything's in the way. So you actually have to tilt the filter and pull it out this hole. Because of that, they make a nice little, like a little cap. Some of them are aluminum or whatever. Some of them are plastic, and they actually just go in the hole on the top of the oil filter. But that's what I use. I don't know what I did with it. This big Ziploc bag. What I do is I just break it free with the filter wrench. As soon as it's broken free and I can turn it with my hand, I just put this Ziploc bag over top of it and let it fall inside the bag. And then I lower it down till it's sitting in there. And I just zip the bag up and pull it out, and there's no mess, no leak that way. These bags most people have them. This one's way bigger than you need too. It only has to be big enough just to put the filter in. But I'll get started on that and I'll show you what I mean. Now that I have it cracked, which you only have like this much movement with your wrench in there, I got it cracked. So I'm gonna take my bag, my Ziploc,
this is an extra large freezer bag. I find the large ones are better because they fit easier. And I'm gonna put it in there and I'm gonna just hand bomb the rest of it out. So I've got my bag over the filter now. So now you can just see I can just hand turn it with my fingers. Just try to keep your bag slid nicely up on there. So there you go, the filter's down now. I let go off the threads. It's inside the bag. So now what I do with it is I just drop it down because it'll sit inside there. It won't fall all the way through. And I'll just zip the bag up so I don't lose anything, and then I'll pull it back out this hole, which I'm gonna need 2 hands for. So there you can see, got the filter out. There's the oil filter in the bag. Spilt a little bit inside the bag, but there's not a drop of oil spilt anywhere there, which works perfectly fine. Those caps work good too. The cap's probably better, but I just don't have one. So here's the new filter. It's just a Mopar. I think there's like one manufacturer or a couple that make pretty much all these filters. So you guys can argue in the comments about which one's better. But anyway, here's the, where's the number? There's the number up top. There's 05083285AA-001. That's just the number from them. What I like to do with these filters is I always write the date on it that I did the last oil change, just so I remember. I usually write it on the paperwork too and keep it in the truck. But then I'll fill it up as much as I can with oil without dumping it all over the place. And I always do this seal. I just get it nice and lubed up so it gets a proper seal on it, and then I thread it back in. So I'll try to show as much of that as I can, but there's not a lot of room, as you can see, with me sitting in the way there. It doesn't open, or it doesn't give you a lot of room to see, but I'll do the best I can. The other issue with doing this is when you try to feed your filter in there, there's not a lot of room to kind of line it up. So what I like to do is I just feel up there with one hand and feel where the threads are, and then try to guide the filter the best I can up to it and then get it started. It takes a while. And then you just got to spin it and spin it and spin it till it finally bites on the threads. Lots of guys whine about that, but I don't find it that hard if you feel where it is and try to guide it. And I'm pretty much the biggest whiner out there, so and I don't find this part that bad. The filter already on there. It took me about 2 seconds to get it. Like I said, you just guide it with your other hand, and then I just snug it down the best I can with like hand tighten it, and then I'll just finish it off with my filter wrench. And like I said, it's mostly full of oil already, so you won't have any issues on startup. Some guys swear you have to do it, some guys say you don't. I just like to do it so everything has oil when it first fires. So the last part that I just showed there where I put the filter back on, that's where one of those little caps would be really handy, because you could actually fill the filter right to the top, put the cap in it, slide it through there, and then lift it up, take the cap off. Unfortunately, I don't have one, so like I said, I put as much in there as I can because it doesn't spill right away. It takes a second for it to be on its side to spill. So I just jammed it in there with as much oil as I could put in there. I tried to top it off with a funnel, and then like it's just got like a soft rubber end on it, so I jam it in there, fill it back up, and then slid it in there. It takes a little bit longer, but it works. It's not that big of a deal. Then I tighten the filter down nice and snug. So now we just got to add the oil. Like I said at the beginning, I run Shell Rotella T6 0W40 for the winter here, because like I said, it's regularly 30 below in the winter, in the coldest months, January, February there. 0W40, this is the stuff here. I do oil changes usually a couple times a year based on the miles. I will run 1030 in the summertime when I know it's not going to get cold. But I always run the 040 in the winter, and I've never had an issue with it. So I think they say you need 10 or 11? It might be, I'll have to check on that. I think it's 11.4 or 11.8 liters. So obviously two 5-liter jugs that we have here aren't enough. But like I said, I'm going to be using a 5-gallon pail of it that I got over there. And filling it up that way first, and then I'll just top it off with these little jugs. Like I said, so you guys don't think I'm lying to you, there's Rotella T6 that I run in the summertime, full synthetic, extreme temperature 040, and then there's T5 synthetic that I run 10W30 in the summer. I think I just said that backwards. Winter, summer. Anyway, I just did a quick little check, and yes, it is 11.4 liters. of oil that the truck needs. So I just wanted to make sure I put that in here and confirmed. But I always check the oil level after. But you want to add your oil through here. Here's your cap. This is where you can check blow by too if the truck was running. Truck has no blow by the way. But I'll just take the cap off. Find yourself a nice little funnel. Make sure it's nice and clean so you don't get a bunch of junk in there. Find one that fits inside there nicely. And then just use it so you don't spill it. You could try to freehand it, but with a 5-gallon pail, it's not that easy. So I'll get this started, and then once I add it all, I don't think I need to show you that. But I'll add it all in, and I'll show you how we start after. So I got my funnel in, oil up. I'm gonna add it right away here. This is the final point where you really wanna check and make sure you put your oil drain plug back in. I've seen people fill their oil back up and then you look under the vehicle and it's just all over the floor. So make sure your oil drain plug is in and you're good to go. And then we'll just fill it up and we'll get this all finished up here. And the final part of the service that I've done it already, but I'll just go over it real quick here, is the under hood, the air intake filter. It's on the passenger side here, right here. This is the factory one. If you have like an S&B cold air intake or some other brand, K&N, whatever, they're going to be different and they're going to run their own filters, but this is just the factory one that comes with the truck because mechanically nothing has changed on this truck. So what you just need your 8mm socket, or your 10 millimeter socket, sorry. So you probably don't have one because most guys lose them. But if you look, there's just a bunch of 10 mil. You got to go all the way around this box. You don't have to unplug any of that stuff. You don't have to undo that boot. You can lift this up once it's undone, out of the way just enough. The filter is probably like 4 or 5 inches thick, but you can lift it up. That boot there gives you plenty of play. You just slide the old one out, slide the new one in. What I like to do too, when I pull it out, is take a vacuum and just vacuum all in there. Like you'll see when you take your filter out, if it's been a while, there'll be bugs in there. There'll be all kinds of stuff. Leaves. I just vacuum all that out real quick so I know it's not past the filter and doesn't get sucked into the intake. So I do all that and then I just jam the new filter in, button this all back up nice and tight, and you're good to go. So I have the oil all topped up now. I'm just sitting in the driver's seat. So what I want to do, and I do this lots, is foot off the brake if you have the push button, or just cycle it to the run, and you put it in run, and you just want to run the fuel pump a few times. You can hear it priming the system. And I let it do this multiple times just to fill all of these. See the oil change required, fuel service. And I just run it, and I do it at multiple times so I know the whole fuel system's primed, so you're not trying to start it empty. And then you want to navigate to your page with your fuel filter life, right? So there you go at 0. You hold the right thing, confirm to reset. Yes. Now it shows 100%. Then you navigate to your oil life, same thing. Hold the right button to reset it. There you go, you have 100% now. Just shows that we've just finished them both up. Should take care of both those. And like I said, I prime it off, on, and I do this multiple times before I start it. The other thing I do is I run it for a little bit, a few minutes, after I know it's all filled up, everything, and I check for leaks, make sure that there's no leaks anywhere, make sure there's not fuel piling out underneath either at the back or the front filter. And then I always check the oil a couple more times, like for the remainder of I'll check it in a few minutes after I let it run. Then I'll drive it for a bit or whatever, and I'll check the oil level again just to make sure that everything is good. You don't want to just do an oil change the filter, slap oil back in it, and then hit the road and never look back, because you never know. You want to make sure everything's all filled up and where you want it, so like the filter and everything. So I'm going to do that now, but hopefully you guys learned something, and if you guys made it to this point, I appreciate you guys for sure. And if you guys could, leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll keep picking away at this. I'm possibly looking to change this truck up again, do some more work to it maybe, or even sell it, so we'll see. But anyway, stay tuned for more, and take care, guys.